I am a male. I hope that doesn't come as much of a shock to you. I had very little to do with actually being a male. That's more was in the hands of God and about some things that passed between my parents. But I didn't mean that to be blue, sorry, it just came out that way. But I'm also a man. Norman Mailer says that masculinity is not something given to you, it's something that you earn, and you earn it by winning small battles with honor. So I have had some choice about being a man. I hadn't always chosen to be a man, but I have chosen to be a man now, and I love being a man. I love the power of it, yes, not physically, but I love the fact of what my words can do in the souls of my children. I love having a band of brothers. I love it when I come just to the end of what my manhood can, what being a male brings to me, being a man brings to me, what it has in my life, and then my wife picks up from there as God leans over and says, "You're an idiot, shut up and listen to her." I like teaming with women, I like teaming with men, I like all the things it means to be a man. I love it. But surely you know that we are living in a crisis of manhood in our generation. It's most evident, I think, when we watch television. Every man in the room, I'm sure, has had a moment of being furious at the idiot doing a happy dance in the living room because he found the remote in the couch while the wife and the kids are rolling their eyes at yet another stupid father on TV. All men are either at the pole shoving a 20 into somebody's thong, or they are overcoiffed and spending all their time talking about that, or they're just stupid. The one that I really get irritated with is the commercial that has the guy who's found an insurance company, and now he's dressed his dog, himself, and the entire house in the color of the insurance company. Now, those are light and sort of cultural problems with manhood, but let me tell you that statistics show that men are falling behind dramatically today. And this takes up residence most in boys. It's really boys who are suffering the most. In fact, psychologists are beginning to speak about a war on boys. In a recent Esquire magazine article, they actually talked about the drugging of the American boy, because since our society doesn't have men speaking for boyhood, what happens is that when we meet boyhood, we drug it. 1 in 7 boys are either taking Adderall or something. Fine, some people actually chemically need it. The psychiatrists themselves say most diagnoses are wrong, and what we're doing is simply drugging normal boyhood behavior. My son decided at the age of 11 to lay down in the street on Belmont Boulevard and see how close cars could get to him at night before he jumped up and ran away. Now, fortunately, a policeman friend of mine arrested him and brought him to me. And of course, I descended on him like a jaguar from a tree and, punished him and threatened him with every kind of fire of hell. But then I went to my office and laughed my head off because he's got something going. Every man knows what I'm talking about. There are 2 myths about this crisis before I get down to some specifics. One is that women have taken from men things that should be theirs. And I want to say to you that this is the lie that will keep men in perpetual crisis, because women have taken nothing from men that men haven't surrendered in the first place. The reality is that men have been on a slow decline for quite some time. People are not 100% sure why. Part of it has to do with few fathers in the home. Part of it has to do with few models. Part of it has to do with few ethics and morals. But the reality is that we are living at a time when people are grappling for an understanding of why men are in such rapid decline. It's not the fault of women. A real man cheers the accomplishments of women. The second theory or myth that's floating around is what I call the gorilla theory of men. And that is the theory that's often been touted, which is that men cannot function well in an information society. Since the last barge was pulled or the last bale was toted, whenever that was, because we no longer have to do physical work or conquer the frontier or what have you, that men have no function. I picture the man in a cage staring at a laptop, wondering what to do with it while he scratches himself. And that's the gorilla theory of men, that men are incapable of doing anything beyond the physical. All of it's garbage. The fact is that we are in a crisis of manhood, and it's damaging our society. And the church only recently has begun to be an answer to that. You know the jokes as well as I do, that a man-eating lion would die of starvation in most churches, or that there are two genders, there are three, men, women, and preachers. As a guy who pastored for 20 years, I own that. I understand how that works. The truth, though, oh good, my clock's gone blank. That's awesome. So when I sit late at night on the campus with the young men, they're not baby boomers who take a therapeutic approach to things. They are millennials who say, just tell me what to do. I know we're all blanked up, but just tell me what to do. Nobody's ever told me what to do. So I believe that one of the paths that will get us back to manhood is by understanding that sometimes in Scripture, it's not the supernatural thing that comes first, it's the doing that comes first. And the supernatural thing comes in the wake, or perhaps as the result of the doing. Naaman has to dip himself first, then he is healed. The lepers have to go show themselves to the priest first, and as they go, they are healed. So it's perfectly fine for us to approach manhood from the standpoint of what ought we to do. And this brings me to 4 maxims that I highlight in the book, trying to boil manhood down to the merest thing possible. And the first is, and this will sound silly almost, but manly men do manly things. We have had a men's movement, thank God for it. And we have had a men's movement that was very, very therapeutic, healing the masculine soul, the masculine journey, the father wound. Thankful for all of it. But we have to at some point boil down manhood to what do you do? What does a man do? When I was 4 and my father turned to me and said, open the car door for your mother, I knew that there was something going on. She was bigger than I was and could whoop me, but I was supposed to open the car door for her. There was something I was supposed to be doing. There are duties, there are responsibilities, the way a man guards, the way a man protects, the way a man thinks, the way a man ennobles, the way a man uses his words, the way he puts his strength at the service of those he is responsible for. What is it we are supposed to be doing? Manly men do manly things. They don't talk primarily. They don't process primarily. We've had lots of words. We need to have more, but we need to get on with the doing. Then manly men tend their fields. You'll be aware that in Corinthians, Paul said, I will not boast beyond the field assigned to me. Every man, I think every woman too, but talking to the men, every man has a field assigned to him. When he's in college, it might be a rusty car and half a dorm room and 3 textbooks. That's fine. That's his field. That's what he's responsible for, how he dates and not losing his past to the cafeteria. All of that is how he observes manhood and tends his field. He gets older, it's a house, it's a family, it's a business, it's what he commits to in the community, it's his responsibility in the church. He has a field, he tends it, he guards it. The son's spending too much time locked in his room with the computer. The daughter's beginning to get surly and there's something in her purse she doesn't want to talk about. The man is lovingly, gently engaged and not just leaving it to the woman. He tends his field. He's responsible for that field. Manly men tend their field. Masculinity, if it's anything else, is primarily responsibility. Then, manly men build manly men. I switched from computer A to computer B. You can guess which ones they were. Computer A required me to read a lot of books, add a lot of peripherals, and read books about adding the peripherals and why the peripherals didn't work. Computer B reached out and massaged me on the cheeks and welcomed me into the loving embrace, kissed me gently in the morning and said, here is the path ye ought to go. It was a culture. It was something absorbed. And so manly men build a culture which protects the boys, which stands guard, which welcomes other men, which becomes the band of brothers that encourages, without classes and seminars, perhaps, manliness. And then finally, manly men live to the glory of God. The glory of God. I love and I'm crazy about my wife. I am not smart enough to learn what I need to know to tend her and help her and serve her by staring at her. She is a marvelously complicated person. She is a complicated person, and I love that. I need wisdom from God. I need to not live as a man in some way that is looking for applause constantly. That stopped when I brought my mother her first dandelion. I need to recognize that I live to the glory of God. I partner with God. I walk in God. This is frankly how many men are going to know God. A final thought. All great theological wisdom comes from that great theological morality play, The Andy Griffith Show. And there was a particular episode where Andy's out of town. Barney and Goober are the interns, are the sheriffs, and are the guys who are tending the deputies. They're tending the town. They look over, somebody's robbing the bank. They hide behind a car. Goober says, somebody needs to call the police. Don Knotts, as you know, that crazy character, looks back and says, we are the police. That's the story for us men. There is no super dad who's going to sweep in. There is no father knows best. There is no wonderful father who's going to come in a toga and sit you by a tree and tell you what you need to know. Look around. You are the fathers for this generation. This is how the thing gets healed, and this is how we restore righteous manhood. Have a good time.